My guest today is Marcellus Cox, an award-winning writer-director who has a passion for movies and filmmaking. Now, Marcellus's work have screened in over 200 international film festivals, won over 150 international film awards, and has screened nationwide on things like Shorts TV, Aspire TV's urban indie film block, as well as Revolts TV Short and Fresh, even the African American short films and PBS. Now, his directorial debut, Mickey Hardaway, premiered in 2023, screening in over 20 international film festivals, winning 11 awards, and even scored 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. He is currently in pre-production on his second feature, Jefferson Street, but it's his newest short film, Liquor Bank, which is based on a true story, is an unflinching dive into addiction, self-destruction, and the brutal necessity of human connection. It's raw, it's real, and it's relentless. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome filmmaker Marcellus Cox in his new short film, The Powerful Liquor Bank, to the show. Welcome, Marcellus.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it, having a chance to be on the show.
Hey, it is great to have you here, and I'm blessed to see this film, Liquor Bank. But how did you get into filmmaking?
My love for filmmaking always came from my grandmother. So right around 9 years old, when I really started to really pay attention to film, she was the one who really got me into it. My grandmother, she loved LA Rebellion films, so she always watched movies like Killer Sheep and Daughters of the Dust and Bush Mama by Hermione Gunty, and then it just led to other stories from there. Just seeing her appetite for movies like on the Waterfront or Casablanca, just classics like that. And I just had a massive passion for it. I knew that it was something I loved. I knew that it was something I wanted to explore more. And for me, the real movie that really made me want to do it even further, and I talk about it all the time, and to this day, I'm still in awe of it. It's a movie like Who Framed Roger Rabbit that really kind of spoke to me because I loved animation. I love old school period films. And I mean, it was just one of those films that just made me say, okay, I want to do this. And it just sparked that flame in me that's been there ever since. So my real love for cinema came from my grandmother, and I just been going at it ever since for the last 25 plus years.
Yeah, it's amazing that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is such an incredible classic, and I don't even think about what current film we've seen that actually incorporates both, you know, animation and live action. Maybe Space Jam 2 is the newest version.
Yeah, it could be. I know the Chippendale film for Disney recently that came out. That was a pretty good one, but none of them had the same kind of flair that Who Framed Roger Rabbit did. I mean, the writing, the direction, I mean, the animation, which brought back the old school era of cinema, the golden age of cinema, especially with Warner Brothers and with MGM and stuff like that. I don't think MGM had cartoons in there, but I know for sure for Warner Brothers, it was just one of those rare films where everything just worked. And I mean, when you have a great tactician like Robert Zemeckis behind it, you just kind of already knew that this was going to be something special. And 40 plus years, and you're just still in awe with it. Like, it's just an amazing film.
Yeah, I love the fact that 2D animation seems to be far more artistic than the 3D animation that we see today. And that's where Roger Rabbit goes back to, is that 2D animation that we love so much. Because like you said, it's just the classic way of doing things. Now, let's talk about this incredible film of yours, Liquor Bank. I understand it's based on a true story. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so back in 2023, when I did my debut feature, Mickey Hardaway, I had a chance to meet an executive over at PBS, Brian Sherwood, who is now over at 824. He was the one who introduced me to Eddie Moeller, who the story is based on. And me and Eddie had a chance to meet at a festival we stayed later on in the theater, and we talked about his story. And then eventually I had a chance to go meet with him in LA at the time when he was in Los Angeles and just hear his story about his time being in the Marines and fighting for our country, and then just understanding what caused the issues of him going into alcoholism and It was really heartbreaking. It was really something that I felt like he was blessing me with the opportunity to tell his story. I wanted to do it as much justice as humanly possible, and then having a chance to also meet with his sponsor Baker, and knowing more into Eddie's story and background. I think things maybe he was, I don't want to say too embarrassed, but I think things that he was just kind of hoping to kind of keep away. But when you know when you're telling somebody's story, you have to have the good with the bad, and that was something that I was blessed to have the conversation with Baker and to really put it all together. And I feel like with this kind of film, it wasn't really something that was going to be super attractive to an investor. And I had a hard time trying to find the money. You mean you're going to have that anyway with a short film, but even more so when you come to a story like this, which is not really an attractive or sexy kind of story, it just kind of like just sat still, and I just kind of went back to focus on my feature. So at some point around 2024 in December, I was working on another short and kind of fizzled out. And I actually had an investor who was interested after he read the script and he funded the film. So I went back to it and I had a chance to meet with Eddie just to get his blessing on it. And thank God he agreed to it. And I was able to tell this story. And even more so, I had only a month to cast it. But I knew the actors who I wanted in Sean Alexander James, who played Baker, and Antwone Barnes, who played Eddie, who were both amazing in this film, who both give it the heartbeat that it needs to breathe. And I would not even be in this position without them. So we just got blessed, we got lucky, and to finally be able to bring this vision to life. And the fact that brilliant people like yourself, who tell me even when I sometimes don't know if I gave it justice, tell me that this was something special. And that really means a lot to me more than anything, just to be able to not only tell the story, but to know that we did something right for people in his predicament, in this situation, those who have fought for our country and have come back, and it has been hard for them to find a normal way to into society again.
Well, this is a very powerful film. It's a film with a very powerful message. Where did the title of the film come from?
Well, it's interesting. So if you're from Los Angeles, like I am from South Central, there used to be a liquor store near Leimert Park on Crenshaw Boulevard called Liquor Bank. And me and Eddie had a chance to walk from his apartment in Leimert Park to the store. And as we were talking, Eddie was going there to get some Skittles for his daughter. And we were talking about him and his alcoholism. And I always thought about that when I was coming up with the story. So when I was thinking of him, and I didn't have a title up to that point when I got the blessing from him, and I just went back and I thought about that meeting. I was looking at the notes and I said, okay, I call it Liquor Bank because that was the name of the liquor store.
Oh, that is very, very cool. Sometimes I always wonder where some of these titles come from, and especially this particular one, because your film Liquor Bank, it gets to the deep issues that people have with alcohol addiction. It's one of the best films I've seen that cover this subject with great emotion, but this film shows what alcohol does to people's mental health. Alcohol leads to depression, uncertainty, self depreciation, insecurity, self doubt, but becomes a trap that many can't get out of, even when help is standing right in front of them. And you capture all of that within Eddie's character.
Oh, I thank you for that. I think one of the things that really helped and benefit was actually being able to set a time right before shooting to meet with a lot of people in these situations. I was able to go to an AA meeting out in San Pedro, and I actually had a chance to meet with a lot of people who were going in these situations, and I'm able to make sure that as I was going over the final script before we started shooting, that I capture a lot of the emotions. And when you hear these people speaking and you hear them talking about their situations, and this actually having them look at it and give their opinions on it really meant something to me, because I never wanted to characterize individuals like this without it being, cartoonish, and so to speak. I didn't want that. I felt like the best way for me, because I've already seen it dealing with people that I know who've had addictions, and I wanted to make sure that I was on the right track in terms of the character development for these individuals like Eddie. And I felt like when I had them look at it and they gave their cosign on it, I know that I was on the right track. So, I mean, it's great to do your research, but when you have to go to the source and they're the ones who co-sign it, that's when I knew that I had it down pat.
Well, one of the things that intrigued me about this story, this is about the first year of sobriety with Eddie. What did some of the people tell you, and how hard is that first year?
I had one woman. She told me that this was by far the most strenuous of her life, because when you're on a dependency like alcohol, which help kind of eases with certain pains, and to go without it's extremely frustrating. Anyone who has any sort of like addiction that helps kind of help them get through the day. I mean, I know life can be rough and life can be very difficult at times, but when you get stuck on these sort of things, it is more of a healing process for some of these people. And once you take it away and you're trying to get better, it could be a pain in the ass. I've understood what it's like because I wouldn't say my own personal issues with alcohol, but I do know what it's like to cut it off, and that dependency that I had on it. It could be very strenuous, and I understood what people are going through, and the sort of hell that they're living in on top of the hell they created. So it's really fascinating seeing in real time what these people are going through, especially those who got through the first year, and those who were right there like Eddie, who close to it and just kind of relapse, and it's just the kind of sickness behind that. So uh, I mean,
Well,
I want to say that I got it in a manner of work, but it's a manner that is very hard to watch.
well, there are elements. There are not elements. There are moments in this film that really showcase the struggle with alcoholism. And and here's Eddie. He basically he wasn't even proud with the fact that he made the first year. He was like, I did the first year, I give up. But there's a scene when they're standing in the kitchen and he holds the beer can and he says, this is the only thing in my life that gives it meaning. When you talk to Eddie and you talk to others, for those that really don't know, how strong is that demon of alcohol?
It's massive. I mean, I would put it up there with the likes of any recreational drug, whether it's coke or meth. It's one of those things that it's really difficult for people to wing off, and it becomes, I guess, sort of a surrogate love for these people, and it's just depressing because I've seen really good friends of mine who have struggled with alcohol addiction, I've had one recently 2 years ago who took his own life because of depression when it came to alcohol, and it's one of those things where it's just it. I kind of get a little depressed thinking about it and even emotional thinking about it, just talking about it. But I just seeing Eddie and knowing him and his story, especially given the fact that this is a man who fought for our country. And I mean, that's a whole completely different story another day where you can see how veterans are treated when they're coming back. So you add all of those pressures of seeing death and seeing all type of gruesome things fighting for a country, and then come back to a country that sometimes doesn't feel like it loves you or even cares for you. On top of your other issues that you're dealing with, whether it be friends and family or so on and so forth, and to see his deterioration, it was really kind of like self-reflecting to the point where I could understand why someone goes through these things and they can't bounce back. But to see someone like him recover for it, I feel confident in knowing that there's still hope. And but I mean, these type of things are just really heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, and that's what this film shows. It shows that there's hope, but you also bring the authenticity, the realism of what somebody, when they're struggling with alcohol addiction, what is actually going through their mind. And it's funny because your character, Eddie, it's almost like he's letting the audience know what an alcoholic goes through, their emotions, their thoughts, the struggle, the giving up, or the desire to give up. But he also showed in this film that alcoholics feel they're alone. Now they only feel alone when deep inside they know they need to quit or they want to quit, but they feel like they're alone, not realizing that many others are going through the exact same emotions and struggles. This film showcases that to perfection.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. I think one of the things that really really helped with that was the fact that I saw a lot of that in people who were close to me, and I knew that individual. I knew that story, and I think when you have something as personal as this that you can showcase, I mean it's I had to tell it in a truthful manner. I don't think there was any way I could have sugarcoated it in order for it to work. And you know, I don't like to say like I'm looking at this from an auteur perspective. I just want to really showcase something that I know I've seen majority of my life, and I really want to use it as a teaching tool so that you can see signs in individuals, and you can also use it as a teaching tool to show that there's someone out there who does care for you. There's someone out there who does see you, even though you may feel alone in these battles. You're not alone because you have others who feel just like you, but you also have others who have been what you've been through, who also want to help you and help guide you through these situations. So, you know, I felt like I still
It's
felt
a
like
teach.
personally.
Yeah, well, your film
Yeah.
is out of all the types of films I've seen like this film, particularly with on alcohol addiction, is the perfect teaching film that I've seen in a very long time. I mean, I can see AA meetings showing this film so other people will realize, oh my gosh, that's me, that there is hope. And it also goes to show how important a mentor is. You know, the character Baker, wow. I mean, he is a gentle giant of a man, but he also has to balance tough love. And he portrays both of those aspects brilliantly in this film. And when you look at the scene when they're in the kitchen and the camera is focused on Baker, and you can tell by Baker's uh, facial expressions, he's listening to Eddie, but he at the same time he's remembering the very same things that he has said to himself or acted out when he was overcoming alcohol addiction. So he knew everything Eddie said. He said to himself, but Sean Alexander James plays that part so well. I mean, you can literally see his brilliance in his acting when he's not speaking.
Sean is a brilliant actor. He is one of those actors I've been wanting to work with for years on stuff, and I just haven't had the right project. And I felt like with this, there was no other man who could play this because what you see on screen, not just in terms of the character, but just who the man is. He is a gentle giant, and he's someone who understood this character immensely. I couldn't speak to his past; only Sean could do that better than I can. But I do know that he knew this, and there was moments I didn't have to tell him anything. I give a note here and there, but my God, he was just brilliant. He just had it, and I think maybe he can attest to maybe issues that happened in his own past with friends or family. But I just think that it was something that he just really connected with and he knew. So my God, I mean, like I never take credit for his performance. I'm just glad that he saw this script and he said, "Okay, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean, he's almost the scene stealer here, even though Eddie's the main character. But I have to ask because I watched this film a few times. I wanted to make sure that I was seeing everything that you wanted the audience to notice, or maybe things that are there that the audience may not notice but plays into the story. I noticed that the decal on Eddie's T-shirt, um, was it a metaphor for the demons that he was fighting daily?
It plays off as that, yes. That was the shirt that Antwone brought to the set, and I looked at it and I felt that that was perfect for it because it did kind of play to it, and it plays to the character. So that was something that in the imagery of the shirt, I said, you know what, that plays to it as individual is, and it was a play on into the scene. So I'm glad that did you notice that because nobody else ever picked up on that.
Well,
So
it was funny
that
because
was really great.
you see the image in the center top of the decal. You see the person at the bottom. Then you see what appears to be like these red crosses or X's, and so I kept looking at them like it has to be a part of this film for a reason because it just played so well. And to think that Antwone brings this particular shirt to set, that's what I just call the miracle of filmmaking. You never know, and it just fits. And I think it just played perfectly into the whole storyline.
I think that it was one of those like you said, it's one of those moments where it just a moment of time where you kind of look at it and you're just like, okay, that's it. He had I think he had a white shirt, and it was the plain white shirt, and I said, okay, that worked fine. But when you saw this, I said, okay, there's a symbolism there. Let's go with that. And I'm so happy we did because you're the first one to pick up on that. And I wanted to because I like you said, it had like the red crosses. I was looking at that as like a burning of the afterlife. So this is where you're headed. It's so
That's what I
if
was
you don't get your
thinking.
act right.
Yeah, because it played both ways, and you said it perfectly. One, it's what he's dealing with now internally, but if you don't get your act straight, that could be your afterlife. And so it's a very very strong metaphor in this film. But I have to ask you because I loved the cinematography of this film. There is a scene where this is at the beginning of the film where Eddie walks into the living room and the curtains are
Mm.
parted just enough to allow natural light to come in. I paused it, I kept looking at it because I loved the colors, I loved the lighting, but it allowed the natural light to come in, but it showed me that even in the midst of struggles, and if we pay close attention or enough attention, there is a light at the end of those struggles. And I was wondering if the parting of those curtains, bringing in that natural light, was another part of telling the story.
I would love to tell you that was the case, and I think that in some way that would be a great sell for this. That was this really just to have this a little bit of natural light in, because on the actual day of shooting, our gaffer quit, so we uh, we didn't have a chance to go out and find a gaffer. So everything was shot in there was on natural light. So we were able to use the curtains from a certain angle to kind of balance it off the walls, which played perfectly because I went and scouted the location beforehand, and I knew that I had the dark gray tone to kind of play. It's almost kind of like what you would, to some degree, see if you had a hangover, and that was the way that it played. So it's very very groggy, very like darkish light, and the natural lighting was just the perfect fit because my way of looking at it is to some degree, like you said, it's almost kind of like there's a light at the end of the tunnel to some degree. So I love the analogy of that, and I can definitely stress that, but I can't take full credit for that. No.
Well,
Much as I would love to.
I love the saturation of the color, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I've got to know, and I know you kind of alluded to it already. Um, this film was put together in about a month's time. And so you have Antwone Barnes and Sean Alexander James, which to me were absolutely perfect choices because the audience can relate to both characters. Because when I saw Sean, I went, wait a minute, I know that guy. And
Mm.
so because he's got a very long film resume, and Antwone, I mean, he brought his A game to that part.
You know what? These were both actors I've been admiring for a while. I've actually wrote something in mind for Antoine. Didn't get a chance to make it with him. It was another short I did called "I'm Sorry," and I ended up casting a great actor in that, Cedric Williams. But I've been wanting to work with him, and I just didn't get the opportunity. But this was like perfect. I said, okay, there's no way I'm going to pass up on working with Antoine again. And Sean, I've been a fan. I actually met him. through another actor who I was auditioning for my feature, Mickey Hardaway, and I got a chance to look at Sean's reel, and I thought he was phenomenal, and we built a friendship in a sense. So he's been in my feature, and then doing this, I knew that there was no way that I cannot have these two. They're both brilliant actors, and I just knew that if I got the two of them together on this, which is the first time they've met, and the first time they worked together was on set that day, which we shot in one day. I I mean, my God, I knew that they would be both brilliant, and I don't take none of the credit for their talent. They're both geniuses, and I'm just happy that they both said, "Hey, Marcellus, let's do it."
Well, I was wondering because when I watched this, I'm thinking he shot this in one day. And because the blessing of the location is you're only focused on three rooms in the same space, as well as the outer hallway, and then that one shot at the end when they're outside. So yeah, I could tell that most likely you shot this in one day, which works wonders for the budget. But tell me about the post production process, because this short, it looks like film, because I noticed the noise in certain areas, and the colorization removes the look and the feeling of digital, which I liked a lot.
Yeah, that was one of the things I talked about with my coach, was to kind of give it more of a grain 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter look. So that was one of the things that we had discussed. Post overall for this is probably the easiest I've ever had for any project, because I kind of already knew what I wanted the look to be. I wanted it to be gritty. I wanted it to be dirty, because I mean, you look at the character's life at that point in time. There's nothing beautiful about it. So why make it look beautiful? But make it, it wouldn't make any sense to me. It had to look dirty. It had to look gritty. So I kind of had that 1970s style kind of look. So working with my cinematographer Fabian, we kind of already knew how we were going to shoot it. Lots of close-ups, lots of medium close, medium wide shots to kind of give it that kind of personal, like claustrophobic feel. And then we just added that touch with the color. So I kind of already knew this was gonna be like, oh my God, this felt like to me like I wanted to do like a Sidney Lumet style type of film, Dog Day Afternoon network type of feel, where it's not beautiful. It just has that kind of gritty look.
It does, and it played so well into the storyline. And it was funny because you said 1970s, because that was the first thing I thought of when I noticed the first scene in the living room. I thought, wow, this has that 1970s look. Not only because of you're trying to give it that film grade, but it was also the colors that played into it. It's kind of like watching. It's like going back and watching like the original Dirty Harry movie. You look at it, it's the
Mm.
1970s, and that's what this film has, that perfect look. Now, what have been the audience's reaction to this film so far?
You know what? It's been a lot better than I ever imagined, because I knew with a tough subject matter like this, it can go either way. It can either be one of those things that an audience can hate because, oh, it's not realistic enough, or it's not truthful enough, or it could be those things that people just take to, and I feel like everybody has taken to it. And the stories I've heard from people, just knowing that everybody has a situation with this subject matter. But and you wouldn't even imagine, even someone that you might be the most perfect person. Like this guy, it's no imagine I can ever imagine your life being hectic. No, my father or my mother or my grandmother or my uncle. And, it's crazy. Everybody that has dealt with addiction, and to see this, especially when it comes to alcoholism, and to get the feedback has been absolutely astonishing. And then you just add the critical praise on top of this. So to me, it's overwhelming at times to get it, because I keep waiting for someone to be like, I don't like it. But so far, it just hasn't happened. So not to get cocky, but yeah, I feel like I served my purpose on this.
Well, yeah, you did. And here's the thing: if anybody ever says that they don't like this film, they're an idiot because this film is great. The message is very, very powerful. It shows two sides of the coin. You have someone who is struggling with the addiction, trying to get through that first year of sobriety. You have another person who's already gone through that struggle, has lived it, experienced it, and is now trying to help other people, find the freedom, from this demon. And it is a powerful film. I mean, I can literally see this film, Marcel, as being shown at all the AA meetings across the country, and maybe even some drug addiction rehab places too, because people who deal with addictions, they're going to see this. They're going to see themselves. They're going to realize that there is hope available.
I definitely would love for that to be, because I've always tried to use this more as a teaching tool. So if that were to occur, I think that that would be phenomenal. And in any way that I felt like I could help a community, if anyone is dealing with this type of horrible disease, like I would hope that this message in this film would be able to in many ways, be able to say, hey, okay, I need to do things right. I need to get this going. So with that, I would hope that you are 1,000% correct on that, and I would give him all a blessing.
Yeah, this is a very powerful film. So you have no worries in that department. So what film festivals do you have coming up for Liquor Bank?
So far, we have submitted to about really 50 festivals. Majority of them are Oscar qualifying, so we're just waiting to hear back. Um, I feel good about where we're going to be screening. I haven't got any details on yet to where we're going to have our first screening, but I will hope that the first one will be in LA, LA Short Fest. That's why I'm praying. If you're watching, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, it'd be nice to say yes. But that's what I hope the world premiere will be. And just like every filmmaker, you just patiently waiting. But I think we're going to be okay on our festival run.
Yeah, I think you will, and I'm glad that you submitted to many of the Oscar qualifying film festivals. Uh, this is a film that should be right up there because it people can relate to it. Even people that don't have addictions can watch this film, and it gives them understanding about those who are dealing with addiction. So this film will resonate with every audience that will see it. So what's next for you?
For myself, I am currently working on my second feature, Jefferson Street. Uh, um, this is a piece drama set in 1963. It follows a African American detective from Detroit who travels down to East Texas to investigate the murder of his mother at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan. Right now, we're working on trying to secure funding for it. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be ready to step foot into that venture.
So have you cast it yet?
At the moment, currently, I have not. We've just been working with investors and with some meetings with some executives. But I do know who I want in mind for the lead roles. Um, I don't know if I should give those details.
No, 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 no. Keep that to
So
yourself for now. Yeah,
waiting for
wait till
them
the
to tell
funding
me
comes
about
through.
the opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah, most
yeah.
definitely.
I'd keep that a secret right now. Yeah, dude. Yeah, this is.
I definitely think it'd be best to do that.
Yeah. Well, when you get that film done, then you have to come back because I would love to see that film.
If you're extending the invitation, I will definitely be here, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you. And I think it's something we can talk about. Sure.
Yeah, I love period pieces, and it's funny that here we are in 2025, and we look back and think now that the 1980s, the 70s, the 60s, they're now those are period films.
And it's crazy because it's just, although it may seem like it's a long time, it wasn't that long ago. And, to be able to bring these kind of stories to life, I mean, to especially at a time where I feel like it's definitely needed the most. Yeah, it would be really, really great to be able to bring this to the
Yeah.
world.
Well, it's funny, Marcellus, because now that I'm thinking about it, we have a whole new generation of young people that really don't know what life was like, in the 1960s, the 1970s. And there are a million stories, still out there that need to be told. And you're one of those telling the stories.
Yeah, I mean, I always just go off of what I've been told from people, and I feel like the ones I've shared the script with, um, professors previously, are just mentors in cinema who have read it, have told me I'm on the right track with the story. So I feel great about that. But just like I said, someone who has not experienced it myself, I just know that I have to bring the right authenticity to it. So I mean, it's crazy to think that, yeah, I've never really experienced any open blatantly racism like that. So to be able to see that on the screen and when you're creating it, it will definitely be a different feel. But I know it's a feel that needs to be told.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And ladies and gentlemen, Marcellus Cox's Liquor Bank is a true depiction of someone fighting the demons of alcohol addiction. This film shows what alcohol does to people's mental health. Alcohol leads to depression, uncertainty, self depreciation, insecurity, even self doubt, but becomes a trap that many can't get out of, even when help is standing in front of them. Now, actors Antwone Barnes and Sean Alexander James, they bring the characters of Eddie and Baker to life. There is tension, but there are silent cries for help from the character Eddie, played by Antwone Barnes. His eyes are the windows to his soul, and you feel his struggle, but you feel his cry for help without ever saying a word. Then there's Baker, portrayed by Sean Alexander James, brings forth his character as someone who literally has already walked the road of alcohol addiction and into sobriety. An experience that only has one goal, and that is to help others. Now, Sean balances the understanding, the patience, the strength, the gentleness, and the tough love when it comes to dealing with Eddie's demons. Both bring incredible performances that will help those dealing with alcohol addiction, because for many, it will be like looking into a mirror and see that help is actually close by. Now, the cinematography comes across as very film like. The noise within the frame adds a realism to the film, which I've said before. I liked it very, very much. And Liquor Bank ends with these words: "We are not put on this earth for ourselves, but are placed here for each other. And if you are there always for others, then in the time of need, someone will be there for you." Quoted by Jeff Warner. Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, we reap what we sow. And Marcellus, I want to thank you so much for sharing this very powerful film with me today.
I thank you so much for just giving me the opportunity to be able to. And if I can just give a special thank you to Adam Free, our executive producer. Adam, well, without him, we're not in this moment right now. He saved our film at a time where financially we were kind of like struggling to get it out. So, Adam, thank you very much for your blessing and coming along and helping us make this possible. So, and thank you to my entire cast and crew. And again, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, Marcellus. I'm so glad that you reached out to me, and I'm honored to be able to watch this film, absorb this film, and understand that filmmaking is in safe hands with people like you, and we need more storytellers like you who are not afraid to bring us stories that, well, they're raw, they're gritty, and they're truth, and we need to see more films like that. So, Marcellus, keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching and listening. Please visit us at bondoncinema.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our Bond on Cinema Prime show And as for me, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.
I'm a lost cause, Baker. Just move on to someone else. Leave me alone.
I can't.